AskReddit by Mr. Qasmada here. What did you think was normal about your body until someone pointed out that it wasn't? My jaw pops whenever I open my mouth. I thought it was normal for your jaw to just unhinge because how else could you open your mouth wide? Turns out, nope. My jaw has done this my whole life. When I yawn or open wide it has to pop on the left side. One time a few years ago I yawned too big and dislocated my jaw. Had to go to the hospital because I couldn't close my mouth and didn't know how to put it back. I have a W-vula. That little hangy thing in the back of your throat. Mine looks like a bowel sack. I thought that's just what they looked like cause like, how often do you look in people's throats? I remember seeing cartoons as a kid where they'd zoom in on a character's mouth when they are screaming or something. And I just thought the artists were lazy, drawing a simple droopy line. But no, that's what most people's look like. When I was in my 20s I went to the doctor for something unrelated and she checked my throat and just said, "Huh, you have a W-vula." Neat. I went home and told my roommates and they all had to look in my mouth. I thought they would think the doctor was the weirdo but they were all shocked. I'll never forget one saying, "You've got balls in your throat." I have one too. My dentist I've been seeing for nearly 6 years gets so excited every single time I visit. It lights up her day no matter what. I use the phrase, you know when your heart does that fluttery sensation and it's like you can feel it beating for a few seconds? Apparently not everyone does know that. In fact most don't, and my colleagues looked at me like I'd lost my mind. Mine does this. I've mentioned it to my doctor but it didn't show up on a heart tracing. Wore one for 24 hours. Some days it will be multiple times and then nothing for a month or two. It's really odd. That I had 8 wisdom teeth grow into the extra space in the back of my jaw, 2 for each side, top and bottom. That all grew in just fine after 20. Only to find out on my last trip to the dentist that I have 8 more growing in sideways. The normal amount of wisdom teeth is 4, not 16. Some of the women in my family grow a third set of teeth in their 30s. My great aunt had a nearly perfect set, only one came in crooked, but my mum's sister had hers come in next to her adult teeth, so she has 2 rows in some places, like a shark. My mum got a couple extra, but they were pulled, and I haven't gotten any yet, though I got to keep all my wisdom teeth and they didn't. This is the opposite. You know when you're breathing like normal, and suddenly when you inhale you get this sharp pain in one side of your chest, at the ribs behind your pectoral muscle? And every time you try to inhale further it comes back, then goes away entirely after a few minutes. Yeah, that's called precordial catch syndrome. Doctors don't know exactly what causes it, but the running theory is that a nerve near your ribs occasionally gets pinched when you inhale and it takes a few moments for your body to dampen the signal from that nerve. It's very common, and does not indicate any underlying or dangerous medical issues. I have this. Always wondered what it is and what it's called. I have a big head. I've never once found a hat that fit. Not even a toque. So, when I joined the army they didn't have a hat big enough for me. I was the only person out of 60 of us without a hat. Drill sergeants I had never met would run from across fields to yell at me for walking outside without my hat. When I explained that they didn't have a hat big enough for me, they cracked up and called me Charlie Brown. It took 2 weeks of that before a hat arrived big enough for me. Most of the time when I'm hungry, instead of my stomach rumbling, the back of my neck will feel fizzy and will make a noise like a rain stick. I'm still unsure what exactly is going on. I had an ex-boyfriend who had this and I thought he was making it up. Then like a year or 2 later it started happening to me too. It only happens when I have gone past the normal hunger stage though. Like, I felt hungry and ignored it. The feeling went away, then a couple hours later my neck starts fizzing. I can activate my tensor tympani muscles. They make that roaring in your ears when you yawn, at will. For some reason, they also activate when I feel sudden pain, even when there's no sound or noise involved. We have a whole subreddit re symbol. Period pain that doubles me over. I thought every woman just dealt with this much pain until my doc told me it was in fact not normal. I've always been shrugged off by doctors for this. I thought I was bad at running because my throat would seize up and get painful whenever I ran for more than a minute. I mentioned this to my doctor when I was 30. Turns out I have asthma. Found out I had asthma when I blacked out after walking up some stairs 10/10. Dermatographia. I have really sensitive skin with an overactive histamine response. When I'm gently scratched with a blunt object, I get a hive in the shape of the scratch. I can write my name in hives on my forearm. I get itchy as soon as I get overheated. Like an all over body itch. There's no rash that pops up, I just get very itchy. Same. Glad to know I'm not the only one. It's like a heat rash or allergy without the rash. I once took part in a study as a paid participant. The doctors used ultrasound probes to examine the blood vessels on my face. They commented on how strange my face's blood vessels were. They struggled and puzzled a little while examining my face. Then they handed me more cash and asked whether I would be willing to donate my body after I died to a medical study. They were polite and respectful throughout the whole process, just seemed excited. Edit, they didn't tell me what's wrong, so I DK either. And my face looks perfectly normal, at least from the outside. So, you must allow me to pay you now so that I may own your carcass. At the moment of your death, of course. I constantly have to flex my muscles. Not in the douchy check me out ladies kind of way, but in a more frustrating I need to move this muscle in the next 3 seconds or I will feel like I am being tortured kind of way. Constantly rotating my shoulders, flexing shoulder blades, neck, arms, wrists, ankles, legs, wherever. Makes it hard to sit still or sleep. Only seriously noticed when I slept with my first partner, who was very confused as to why I wouldn't stop twisting and flexing for at least 2 hours before falling asleep. I just figured everyone got that feeling. Being under a weighted blanket, feeling my arm or leg fall asleep both feel like utter torture and will make me scream and drive about. Would love to know what the hell this is and how I deal with it, because so far I have no clue. It sounds like restless leg syndrome, which can affect your whole body, and not just your legs. Have your iron levels, specifically your ferritin levels checked. RLS is torture, but there are treatments. The way that my eyes see car headlights at night. I thought everyone saw it that way, but apparently it's not normal, and is due to astigmatism. Check this, https://beta.ctv.ca/national/health/2019/4/1_4360754.html close bracket out to see what I mean. Thank you. I knew about the lens flare, but I get the double vision as well, like a second image but a dot semi-transparent version, but each eye does it, so it's not my eyes being misaligned. I thought I was weird, but it turns out that's the astigmatism too. The petite mal seizures I can remember as far back as 6 years old. It wasn't until I was 10 and had a grand mal seizure that I really understood I should have said something before then, but I was embarrassed. I feel this so hard. I was 12 the first time I had a grand mal. I suffered through so many petite mal and absence seizures over the prior years that it's a miracle I made it out alive. Nobody told me this. I ended up learning this on my own in my early 20s. I have a third nipple. I always thought it was a mole on my ribcage and I actually used to like it and kinda thought it was cute. As soon as I discovered the truth, I immediately started to dislike it. And it's funny, but it actually does make me feel exposed when I'm wearing a bra or bikini and one of my nipples is showing. Lol. A nubbin? Thought I had great vision until I tried glasses and found that everything was so much sharper and more vivid. Apparently my left eye has a vision defect, but my right eye learned to compensate, so I never realized. I remember playing Skyrim and thinking they made it too sharp. In reality, mountains that far away didn't look that sharp. Didn't they know how to add a blur or fog shader based on distance? A week after that I happened to get my eyes checked. Turned out I'm nearsighted. Mountains do look like Skyrims. Skyrim was more real than my reality. I thought everyone had the same hearing I did. Then the pandemic hit and suddenly my hearing got worse. Turns out I needed hearing aids, and the reason my hearing got worse was because I could no longer read people's lips due to the masks. Apples aren't spicy. Same. Spent 20 plus years thinking bananas were sour and grapes were carbonated. Apparently I'm just intolerant of them. Feo. Sometimes I can feel and hear my spinal fluid moving in my neck and the base of my head. It sounds like a rain stick. I thought this was just cartilage, the joint moving. Spinal fluid you. I was happier thinking otherwise. I'm very buoyant. I have a hard time sinking to the bottom of a pool at all, no matter how hard I try, and float completely with almost no effort for very long lengths of time. I'm the opposite. Swimming classes in summer camp were hell for me because I cannot for the life of me float on my back and keep my body above water without significant strain and muscle effort. I have a fucked up rib. If I press on it I can feel it move in and out of place. I can quite literally put my hand inside my ribcage to some extent. When I'm bored sometimes I just do that to entertain me, lol. Edit. Wow, I didn't realize how common it actually is. That's crazy. And for those asking, yes, it's a floating rib, but it's misshaped. My tongue has a bunch of cracks and craters in it and is not smooth. Ribbed. For her pleasure. Being bone deep exhausted all of the time. I can sleep for 10 hours, be awake for an hour and then sleep another 10. Got denied for a sleep study because the doctor didn't think I was depressed. Told to take more magnesium. I suffered from an iron deficiency when I was younger that has since been resolved to no change. I did try and go for a sleep apnea test, to which they said that it would be a waste of time to test me for it since I don't show symptoms, no snoring, gasping for breath, etc. Edit. Wow, we did not expect this to blow up. Added info: iron deficiency and sleep apnea. Full stop. Find another doctor who will actually give a shit. I'm sorry that happened. You could be anemic, have a sleep issue or something else. Pain in your stomach and esophagus when you're hungry. Apparently that's acid reflux, not hunger. Turns out acid reflux also can lead to headaches. https://www.medicalnewstoday.com/articles/acid-reflux-headache. Also can lead to insomnia, even if you don't feel like you are experiencing heartburn. https://www.forbes.com/health/conditions/acid-reflux/sleeping-with-gerd/ Biggest thing that works well for preventing problems for me are: eating a decently balanced meal at regular intervals, don't skip meals, avoiding trigger foods when you can, go to sleep at a good time, raise head of bed a few inches. Apparently most people don't have much in the way of toe dexterity. I am monk down there. Same. A lot of times it's easier to pick something up with my feet and hold my foot up to my hand than bend down to pick it up. If I'm sorta tuned out or focusing on something and I hear a sound behind me or to one side, I can literally feel my ears attempt to turn toward the sound, like many animals do, such as cats. My ears don't actually move around, but there's some automated reflex that tries to do it. I mentioned it to my wife, in an innocent statement that began with "you know how you can feel your ears try to move to pinpoint a sudden sound," and she looked at me as if I have 6 eyes. I haven't found anyone else since then who knows what the hell I'm talking about. I do this. I can feel my ears twitch and try to move when a noise happens that I'm not looking at. I assumed everyone did that, but I guess not. I was blowing up balloons with someone once and silently judging them for not being able to do it in a single breath. Turns out I'm the freak who just has mental lung capacity for some reason. Is it normal to not be able to blow up a balloon? Like, at all? Ever since I was a kid, I've watched people do it. And when I try, my ears are in searing pain, and no matter how hard I try, I can't even fill a balloon up a little bit. It's very frustrating, and I've never met anyone like me. When I lean on my elbows, my shoulder blades stick pretty far out behind me. Hard to explain, I guess, but multiple people have pointed it out as weird. Also, I can crack my wrists the same way most people can crack their knuckles. It's very satisfying, and like 5 times as loud. I can stick my shoulder blades out 3 or 4 inches. A doctor told me that I was missing specific muscles in my back, which was why I am able to do it. I don't need to lean on my elbows to do it. I can crack my wrists loudly too. Over and over and over again. All the freckling. In places most people don't have freckles. Every year I get more. This year alone I noticed them on the tops of my knees, like watcha doing their body. That your brain never stopping is not normal. It's actually a sign of hyperactivity. The first time I took meds and I only thought of one thing at a time? Overwhelming. OMG, me too. I cried when I took meds for the first time because I thought that they'd damaged my brain and made me stupid. Cataplexy. I lose the ability to grip, hold things, chew, sometimes even stand when laughing. Basically, my muscles shit the bed whenever I start laughing too hard. Me, my sister, and my dad have it. My sister has even dropped her children because of it. Don't worry, more of a gradual release than a full-blown drop, and no one was hurt. I grew up thinking it was entirely normal, and my mind was blown when I found out it was not. I asked the next 10 people I saw, friends, co-workers, drug dealer, if they got weak while they were laughing, and they looked at me like I was crazy. One of those contacts was not like the others. Found out in hypoglycemic because I went to the doctor after having this conversation with someone. Ugh. This sucks. You know when your whole body gets kinda hot but your blood feels cold and you get dizzy? They did not know that feeling, and so I went to the doctor, got blood work. Sure enough. Aphantasia, or the absence of a mind's eye. When I found out that people can picture stuff in their head, I was amazed. I was also 45. I recently found out that some people cannot think, talk, inside their head. Like when reading. Blew my mind. I have bones in the bottom of my mouth, mandibulatory. I was in my 20s before a dentist commented on them being uncommon. Finally explained why x-rays of my teeth were always so painful. That I don't have areolas or any color to my nipples unless they are hard, and the fact that my skin goes purple randomly. Also my tonsils, they were always swollen and I didn't know they weren't supposed to be swollen until I went to an ent and had them removed last year. I never understood why people were able to tolerate heat so easily, or why they would complain about sweating. One day I came across the term anhydrosis and a light bulb went off. Basically, I don't sweat enough, so I'm crap at regulating temperature. I just get dizzy and nauseous if I overheat instead. My mom and son are the same way, so it didn't seem all that weird to me. Had a teacher call the mole on my cheek a beauty mark. Hadn't realized having such a prominent mole was remarkable enough to have a special name. And I have never, ever thought my mole was beautiful. I remember a girl turning around in her seat on the bus, stare at me, then said, "You know your mole has hair growing, right?" No I didn't. Now I pluck my mole every week or so. Thanks Brittany or whatever her name is. Edit. I've read every comment below, and it warms my heart to know there are dozens of us. Dozens. Mole pluckers unite. Also I'm keeping my hairy beauty mark unless it turns cancerous, but no shade to those who have or will remove their face moles. I have a cheek mole too. My parents always called it my beauty mark and said how special it is. I've had a kid in school ask me why I have poop on my face. I also pluck it to see if grows hair. But I was raised to love it and I still do. I thought my vision was normal and then my eye doctor almost had a heart attack when she asked if I had driven to my appointment. I didn't. Since I was kid I was aware of the running commentary in my head. My mind is consistently thinking about one thing and then bouncing off to something else, talking over something that happened last week or running through an interaction I expect to have tomorrow. I will zone out mid-conversation and have even been in meetings where I miss chunks of things because my mind has gone off on what I need to do when I get home. I asked some friends and family if they experienced the same and they gave me a side eye. Apparently an inner voice narrating your day is not normal. I can't imagine what it is like to have a quiet mind when people say they can just sit there and have nothing going on inside. You might wanna get an ADHD eval done. Inverted nipples, never really thought much about them until I saw boobs in various settings, media that is movies, porn, and in person, and none of their nipples looked like mine. I guess no specific person has ever pointed it out to me. I just don't ever see them anywhere, so I still feel weird about them. It's somewhat common. I'm a postpartum nurse. We help people breastfeed and see all kinds of boobies. Lol. Me getting a physical. Doctor, has your chest always had that concave part like that? Me, what? Doctor, never mind. Me? Mine said, oh don't worry, you just won't look as good in a bikini. Big jab at my self-confidence. Plus an underreaction. BC I needed surgery. The amount my eyebrows move when I talk, and I'm nervous. Post-nasal drip. Until my late teens, I thought everyone had that mucus feeling at the backs of their throats. One day, someone mentioned having it, so I looked it up and discovered that maybe my sinus problem was worse than I thought. Lol. I thought I had one big ball when I was a kid. I read they are normally different sizes in puberty class. At 12 got my first sports physical. Hernia. Intermittent loss of color in my vision. That happened to me once. It was cool as heck and then gradually color came back after a few minutes. First green, followed by blue and red. When I'm around a large group of people, I have a hard time remembering everything that happened when I get home and I'm alone. This is without drinking. Thought that was normal. But I mentioned it to my friend. Turns out I have horrible social anxiety and essentially, I mentally check out in settings where I'm uncomfortable. I have bad ankles. I once asked my mom if bad ankles run in our family. She told me that nothing runs in our family. I asked her because of the bad ankles? Fuck, that's funny. Did I read it in a Rodney Dangerfield voice? My ballsack. Then when I started having sex, all the women pointed out how long and saggy my ballsack is. Then I started noticing other guys' balls and I was like, all these guys have such little ballsacks. A lot of guys have balls that aren't even longer than their penis. The beans are shorter than the frank, whereas my beans are like 3x as long as my frank and I don't have a small frank. So I guess I have long saggy balls, like an old man. I've had old man balls since I was a teenager. I'll probably start tripping over them when I hit my 80s. My husband had these massive balls when we met. Bigger than I'd ever seen. Sometimes they would drain and go back to their regular size after sex and I was baffled. I kept trying to get him to go to a doctor and after years of bugging him, he finally did. Turns out, he had a hernia. Happened when he was 16. He woke up one day and his balls were massive. and just never told anyone until I met him when he was 22. Didn't go to the doctor till he was 33 and had surgery to correct it. It was his intestines filling his bowel sac up.